بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Inshallah, in this week's lesson we will be covering two topics. The first topic we will cover is with regards to the preferable time and the mustahab time of completing or doing our salah and doing our prayer. And the second topic which we are going to look at later on in the lesson is with regards to azan and the sunnah procedure and method of doing azan and calling people for the prayer and for the salah. Now we will begin with the first topic, the mustahab and the desirable time to pray and observe our salah. Now there are two ways to look at this. One is the permissible time of performing salah, and the second thing or the second point is when is it more preferable? When is it considered more virtuous to observe and pray the salah? Now in last week's lesson, I mentioned the respective times for each and every salah. So just say for example, Fajr salah or Fajr time begins from Subh Sadiq all the way up to sunrise. So just say for argument's sake, Fajr salah begins at 5:30 in the morning, and say it finishes at 7 a.m. in the morning. 7 a.m. just say is sunrise. So you've got 1.5 hour slot or period to pray your Fajr Salah. Now if you pray your Fajr Salah bang on at 5:30 in the morning, your Fajr Salah will be done. If you were to pray 5:45, your Fajr will be done. If you were to pray at 6 o'clock, your Fajr Salah will be done. Even to the extent that if you delay your Fajr Salah, say all the way until 6:55 in the morning, 5 minutes before sunrise, to the extent that it's bright or outside, even then your Fajr Salah will be done and accepted. But what we want to look at here is not the permissible time of praying Salah. We want to look at when it is considered desirable and preferable to read Salah. Now in the text of Quduri it mentions that the preferable time to read Salah is Isfar. To pray your Salah, or your Fajr Salah, when it is Isfar or when it is bright outside, then that is considered mustahab and desirable. Now there are two rulings here. The other Imams besides Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullah alayhi, such as Imam Shafi, Imam Malik, Imam Ahmad, they are of the view that Fajr Salah should be read as early as possible. So as soon as Fajr Namaz starts, say at 5:30 in the morning, then you should pray ASAP. That's what the other Imams say. So those of you who've been for Hajj or who've been for Umrah will know that in the Haram, whether in Makkah or Medina Munawwara, what happens is that they pray the Fajr Salah right at its beginning time. If you say Fajr is starting at 5 o'clock in the morning, the Muazzin will give the Azan at 5 o'clock, a few minutes for the Sunnah, and then straight away they start their Fajr Salah. So that's what the other Imam of the view that Fajr should be read ASAP as soon as it starts. And the wisdom behind that opinion is so that it becomes a means for people to wake up for their Tahajjud prayer. The other Imam, the reason why they say that you should read your Fajr as soon as possible, as soon as it starts, so that it gives people the opportunity to wake up for Tahajjud. Just say, for example, if the masjid is going to start their Fajr at say 5:35 in the morning, so a person could think to himself, you know what, I'll just wake up half an hour early, say at 5 o'clock, and have time to read at least 2 rakat Tahajjud prayer, go to the masjid and even read my Fajr as well. But if say, for example, Fajr is later on, like say at 6:30 or 6:45, then you're probably thinking, oh, I have to wake up at 5 o'clock for tahajjud and then stay awake for another 1.5 hours before Fajr starts. So he probably thinks about, he thinks twice before he wakes up for tahajjud. So therefore the other imams are of the view that you should read your Fajr Salah as soon as possible. However, according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi, he says, this is the second opinion, that Fajr Salah should be read when it's bright outside. Now what I mean by bright outside, I don't mean like 5 minutes before sunrise, but I mean say half an hour, 40 minutes before sunrise. When if you were to go to the mosque, you'll see that outside it's a bit more bright. If you were to read Fajr, say bang on at 5:30 when it begins, then it will be still dark outside. But if you were to say pray at 6:15, 6:20, 6:30, then you will see that it is still more brighter outside. Okay, so that's when it is considered mustahab and desirable to pray a Fajr Salah according to Imam Abu Hanifa rahmatullahi. Now the next text then goes on to talk about the Zuhr prayer. And Imam Quduri rahmatullahi says, وَإِبْرَادُ الزُّهْرِ فِي الصَّيْفِ وَتَقْدِيمُهَا فِي الشِّتَاءِ. That you should cool the Zuhr Salah or Zuhr prayer fi sayf in the summer, وَتَقْدِيمُهَا فِي الشِّتَاءِ, and you should delay it fi shita in the winter. So basically the Zuhr prayer in the summer should be prayed when it's a bit cooler, and in the winter you should try and delay the Zuhr prayer as much as possible. Now let's look at this particular masla, and in particular we will concentrate on a hadith which can be found in Sahih al-Bukhari, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, "Abridu biz-zuhr," that read the Zuhr Salah when it's cool. Why? فَإِنَّ شِدَّةَ الْحَرِّ مِنْ فَيْهِ جَهَنَّمَ. Because the severity of the heat is from the raging hellfire. What I mean by that is, just say for example in the summer, Zuhr Salah starts say around 1:15, 1:20. Now to read Zuhr Salah say at 1:30, it's still hot outside. At 1:30, if you were to go outside during the summer when it's like 30 degrees, 35 degrees, it's really, really hot. However, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam from this hadith is advising us that we should read our Zuhr Salah when it's a bit cooler. So instead of reading it say at 1:30 or 1:45, read it say 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Remember, we're talking about the summer where you could read the Zuhr all the way until Asr time, and Asr starts at 7 o'clock in the afternoon, in the evening. So read your Zuhr Salah say at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock, around that time, when it's still cool outside, so that many people can come to the masjid and attend the congregation for Zuhr Salah. So that's when you should read the Zuhr prayer. Now I asked this question once to my teacher, and I asked him that, look, in England, all the masajid, you will say, whether up north in Scotland or whether down south in London, all of them pray the Zuhr Salah at 1:30, 1:45, 2 o'clock the latest. You won't see a mosque actually reading the Zuhr Salah at 3 o'clock or 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Everyone, maximum by 2 o'clock, they read the Zuhr Salah. So that's one of my teachers that on the masajid here in England, going against this clear hadith from Sahih al-Bukhari, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is telling us that read the Zuhr Salah when it's cooler in the afternoon. So my teacher, his name Mufti Shabir Saab, he replied by saying that this particular hadith, you cannot use it in England. And he said that England is a country which, even though it's hot, it's not hot compared to the heat of Arabian Peninsula, the Middle Eastern countries. It's not like that. So Mufti Shabir Saab was saying that even it does get 25 degrees, 30 degrees, it's not that hot. It's still like, it's not that severe where people can't leave their houses at 1:30 in the afternoon. People are leaving their houses at like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. They're still playing football in the park and so on. It's not that hot. That's what Mufti Shabir Saab was saying. So therefore, what the practice of the masajid in the UK do, reading Zuhr Salah 1:30, 1:45, then it's okay and it doesn't contradict that. We're talking about the heat here in the Arabian countries when it's boiling at 1:30, 2 o'clock, it's really hot. So for those countries, or you could say the countries in the Indian subcontinent when in the summer it gets really, really hot, for them it is advisable that, you read the Zuhr Salah a bit later on in the afternoon. So that is a masla with regards to Zuhr Salah. And then he goes on to say that in the winter, you should read the Zuhr Salah later on. Okay, so and this is something, a practice which most of the masajid do in the UK. The Zuhr Salah, say in the winter, starts around 5 o'clock, but most of us tend to read it at 1 o'clock, quarter to 1, probably the very, very earliest, around 1 o'clock, 1:15, we tend to read the Zuhr Salah. So it is mustahab to read the Zuhr Salah in the winter a bit later. The next text goes on to say, وَتَأْخِيرُ الْعَصْرِ مَا لَمْ تَتَغَيَّرِ الشَّمْسِ, that you should delay the Asr as long as the color of the sun has not changed. Now this ruling here, we're going to inshallah look at it a bit later on as well. There's another section where it talks about when it is considered disliked and haram to pray your salah. Now, I think I mentioned this in last week's lesson in passing that around 20 minutes before Maghrib Salah, that's when the sun starts becoming pale. That's when the sun starts losing its color and its luster. Now to read Asr Salah or to delay your Asr Salah all the way until that time is makruh tahlimi and is impermissible. So what this text is trying to say is that we should read our Asr Salah before 20 minutes, or just to be on the safe side, say half an hour before Maghrib time. And without any reason, we are not allowed, or it is considered makruh tahlimi, to delay our Asr Salah all the way until that particular time. So let's say, for example, today Maghrib Salah was at 5:45. So we should have read our Asr, say, half an hour before Maghrib time. So up to 5:15, we should have completed our Asr. And to delay our Asr all the way until, say, 5:20, 5:25, and so on, is considered makruh tahlimi and severely disliked. And to do that without any udhr, without any excuse, is impermissible, and you'll be sinful for that. Obviously, if you were traveling or something happened and you got home at that particular time and you read it, fair enough, inshallah, Allah will accept that particular salah. But if you didn't and you prayed the salah in that state, then the obligation will be done, but it will be obligation with detestability and with karahiyah. So what this text is saying is that we should read our salah, delay it, fair enough, delay it, but not to the extent that the sun loses its color and its luster and the color of the sun changes, becomes pale, it becomes orangish. To read or to delay the Asr until that time is considered makruh tahlimi and severely disliked. And the reason why it's makruh tahlimi is because we mentioned the hadith which can be found in Sunan Abu Dawud, Sunan Tirmidhi, Sunan Ibn Majah, and in Sunan Nasai, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam described the prayer of a hypocrite and a munafiq. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam says that a hypocrite, this is his salah, that he waits until the sun is between the horns of the shaitan, indicating that he waits all the way when the sun is about to set, then he will get up and observe 4 rakat, and he does not remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala except a little. Meaning that one of the signs of a hypocrite or a munafiq during Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time was that they would be very, very lazy when it came to observing salah. They would be very lazy when it came to observing salah, i.e. they would not attend the congregation, and if they do pray, they're going to pray very quickly and so on. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has described that a munafiq salah is someone who had so much time to pray his Asr salah. Asr starts, say, at 4 o'clock. He has so much time to pray. But he doesn't, he delays all the way until the sun is about to set. He quickly stands up, reads 4 rakat, finishes in a couple of minutes time, and then he walks out of the masjid or finishes the salah. Then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has described that such a salah is a salah of a hypocrite and is a salah of a munafiq. And because of that particular hadith, we can then derive the detestability of delaying our salah onto that particular time. The next text then goes and says, وَتَعْجِيلُ الْمَغْرِبِ, that it is mustahab to pray our Maghrib Salah as soon as possible. So regarding this masla, there is like a unanimous view amongst all the ulamas and scholars, and that is that Maghrib should be read as soon as possible. As soon as the sun sets, then we should read our Maghrib prayer. And then he goes on to say, وَتَعْقِيرُ الْإِشَاءِ إِلَى مَا قَبْلَ ثُلُثِ اللَّيْلِ. and we should delay our Isha Salah until 1/3 of the night. So our Isha Salah should be prayed up to 1/3 of the night. Now the way to work this out, 1/3 of the night, i.e. basically the time from Maghrib, i.e. from sunset, all the way up to Subh Sadiq, i.e. the beginning of Fajr. So you split that up into 3 parts, and to read the Isha Salah before 1/3 is considered mustahab and is considered desirable. So I'll just give you an example. Just say 6 o'clock in the evening was sunset, and Subh Sadiq is say 6 a.m. the following morning. Subh Sadiq meaning the beginning of Fajr. So you got 12 hours there. So you split the night up into 3 parts, so it's like 4 hours. So before 10 o'clock, you should have prayed your Isha Salah. And it is mustahab to pray your Isha Salah before 10 o'clock in the evening. And then many of the masajid around the UK, they actually read the Isha Salah before 1/3 of the night. So therefore, that is considered preferable time to pray our Isha Salah. We're going to look at it later that if somebody delays it, say after Nisful Layl, after half the night, then to delay without any reason is considered makruh tanzihi and slightly disliked. So to say somebody is reading the Isha Salah, say after 12 o'clock midnight, then that would be considered makruh tanzihi. This is without any delay, without any reason. Obviously, if there was a reason like you were traveling, or something happened, working and so on, you didn't have the time, then if you were to pray, say after midnight, your Salah will be accepted. And then the next text then goes on to say, mention a ruling with regards to reading the witr prayer or the witr salah. Now remember, with regards to witr salah, when should you pray it? There are 2 ways to look at it. Either you have a habit of waking up for the tahajjud prayer, or you don't. Now if you, alhamdulillah, have the habit of waking up for the tahajjud prayer, then you should read the witr salah at tahajjud time. So after you pray the tahajjud prayer, then read your witr salah. Inshallah, there's a section coming up later regarding tahajjud, and inshallah we'll look at it in more detail later. But basically, if you've got a habit of waking up for tahajjud, then you should read your witr salah at tahajjud time. However, if we don't have the habit of waking up for the tahajjud prayer, then it is mustahab and desirable to pray the witr straight away after the Isha, like many of us do. And again, one of my teachers, alhamdulillah, his habit has always been to read the tahajjud prayer. However, he actually even said once in class that even though I have a habit of waking up for tahajjud, even then I still read my witr salah after Isha. Because you don't know, like one night shaitan, he may overpower you and you don't wake up for the tahajjud salah. So even though alhamdulillah for many years he's never ever missed a tahajjud prayer, but even then he says that my habit is still to read the witr salah at Isha time, just to be on the safe side in case if I cannot wake up for the tahajjud prayer. So that is the best course of action to do that. Even though you may be habitual tahajjud prayer, but just to be on the safe side, just say for example you can't wake up for the tahajjud prayer, then that witr salah will become qaza. So therefore it's preferable that you read the witr salah during the Isha time. Now, alhamdulillah, that concludes the first topic. Now, the second topic which we are going to start is with regard to the azan. And what I'm going to do for the remainder of today's lesson is just to look at some masails and rulings with regards to the azan, and then probably in next week's lesson, probably look at the text from Quduri. Now, the first thing which we need to look at is what does azan literally mean, what's the technical meaning of azan, and also we need to look at how azan came about. Now, azan literally means to call, to make an announcement, alarm. And technically, azan means to call people for the prayer and for the salah. That is the meaning of azan Islamically. Now, like I mentioned a couple of weeks ago, that there was an amazing incident which led to the obligation of salah. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam going to the 7th heaven, meeting the various prophets on the way, and then being told by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to pray, or was given the gift of 50 salah, 50 prayers, And as I've mentioned before, it was gradually reduced by five prayers all the way up to 5 prayers. Now similarly, there is also an incident, an amazing incident, which led to the prescription of Azan and which led to Azan being considered as a pillar of Islam, known in Arabic as the Sha'a'irul Islam or the Sha'a'irul Din. Now it is mentioned in a hadith which can be found in Musnad Ahmad, Sunan Tirmidhi, Sunan Abu Dawud and Sunan Ibn Majah. Now once Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was doing mashwara with the companions on how to call people for the salah. Like what should we do to call people towards the salah, to let people know that salah time and namaz time has started. So various recommendations, various consultations and mashwara was given. And eventually they decided that we are going to use a naqus, a bell, to call people for the salah and to call people for the namaz. Now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he actually disliked this because there was some imitation with the Christians, but even then, because there weren't any other alternatives, the Sahabas and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam agreed that okay, we will use the bell, the naqus, to call people for salah. Now a companion in the name of Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbi, that night he sees a dream. And in this dream, he sees a person wearing 2 green garments or wearing 2 green clothes, and he had a bell in his hand. So Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbi, he approaches this man and he says that, I want to buy this bell from you. So this person wearing these 2 green garments says, why do you want a bell for? So he explains that, I want to use this bell to call people for the salah and to call people for namaz. So then this person who was wearing these 2 green garments replied by saying, shall I not tell you something which is more better than that? Which is more better than using a bell to call people for salah and to call people for namaz. Upon which he replied by saying, say, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, all the way up to the end of the azan. And the next morning, when Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbi wakes up, he goes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he tells him the dream, and then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam verifies the dream, and he orders Abdullah bin Zayd to tell Hazrat Bilal radhiyallahu anhu to give the azan. Why? Because he had a more beautiful voice then. So Hazrat Bilal radhiyallahu anhu then goes and starts giving the azan, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Now when Hazrat Bilal radhiyallahu anhu is giving the azan, Hazrat Umar radhiyallahu anhu, he wakes up from his home, from his house. He comes to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, dragging his garment, and he says, by Wallah, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, indeed, I saw the same dream as he saw. The dream which Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbi saw, I also saw the same dream. Now from this particular story and incident, that's where we get the prescription of azan. That azan should be given for all the 5 daily prayers and also for the Jummah prayer as well. Now some may argue and say that why something like azan, which as you know is a pillar of Islam, is a sign that it is a masjid, it's a sign that there are Muslims living in this particular area. You may be thinking that it probably makes sense that this particular order should have been given directly to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, not through Hazrat Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbihi or through Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu. Now the answer to this particular objection is, number one, is the obligation or the prescription of azan was not established from the dream seen by Hazrat Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbihi or by Hazrat Umar bin Khattab anhu, but it was in fact, the obligation came about to the verification of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam of the dream afterwards. As I explained the hadith, when Abdullah bin Zayd bin Abdi Rabbihi saw this particular dream, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam verified that what he saw was the haqq and the truth, and then it was upon this verification of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was like a fatwa or a judgment on Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, only then it became an integral part of our deen and became an integral part of Islam. And you should also further know that during Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's time, a dream was also considered as a mode of wahi and a mode of a divine revelation. The same way Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam would come to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and convey and pass a message of the Holy Quran. Similarly, dreams seen by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam or by other companions and then verified by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is also considered as a hujjah, as an evidence for Muslims, considered as principles of the Sharia, which obviously we can rely on to act upon or to form different rulings or different masail and so on and so forth. And the second kind of reply to this particular objection is that this particular dream was seen also by Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu. And Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, let's look at his virtues and his fadail. Mentioned a hadith of Sunan al-Tirmidhi that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that if there was ever a prophet after me, lakana Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu, it would have been Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu. Similarly, many verses in the Holy Quran were revealed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala according to the wishes of Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu. Sayyidina Umar radhiyallahu anhu, he wanted something, he desired something, even though he wasn't a prophet, but to show the rank Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu had in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would reveal verses according to his wishes. And it's mentioned in the very detailed hadith of Sahih al-Bukhari that 3 verses in the Holy Quran were revealed because of Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu's wishes and desires. And the 3 verses are: number 1 was وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى, that he wanted the Maqam Ibrahim to be a place of worship. So because of this desire, the verse was revealed, وَاتَّخِذُوا مِن مَقَامِ إِبْرَاهِيمَ مُصَلًّى, make the Maqam Ibrahim a place of worship. And as we know that when you perform a tawaf, then it is considered sunnat muakkada to, or well, not like mustahab sunnah, shall I say, not muakkada, but sunnah and mustahab, to pray the 2 rakat salatul tawaf, which is wajib to pray behind the Maqam Ibrahim. So that's one. The second verse which was revealed according to Hazrat Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu's wishes was the ruling and the issue with regards to hijab and parda. As mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab, that Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab, he went to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and he said that, look, pious men and immoral men come to your house and see your wife. Meaning that when we're talking about in those days where there was no parda, so what would happen is, and obviously the homes of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam wasn't like 2-3 rooms and so on. In that same room, in that same hujura, everything would take place. So obviously sometimes the guests of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam would come, and obviously because there was no things regarding parda, sometimes they could see the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu was saying to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, look, pious men come and also immoral men come to visit you. And sometimes these immoral men, they may have some kind of unlawful thoughts about your wife. So upon which the verses regarding hijab were revealed. And then it became obligatory that obviously the Azwaj Mutahharat, and also not just Azwaj Mutahharat, all the women, all the Muslim women, that they should do parda and hijab from strange men. And obviously this is a section which is going to come up in the Salah section regarding parda, which I will look at in detail there. And the third verse which was revealed was the verse regarding the prisoners of war, which can be found in Surah Al-Anfal, where Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the other companions decided that in exchange for the prisoners of war of the Battle of Badr, we are going to take ransom. Whereas Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab radhiyallahu anhu gave the verdict that we should actually kill all of them. So because of that, a verse was revealed, مَا كَانَ النَّبِيٍّ أَن يَكُونَ لَهُ أَسْرَى حَتَّى يُدْخِلَ فِي الْأَرْضِ. So what I'm trying to say from these three verses is that we need to realize that this prescription of azan was revealed, or the dream was seen by someone such as Sayyidina Umar bin Khattab anhu, who in the past Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has revealed verses regarding his desire. So therefore, keeping this in mind, no one should object and think that how can something like azan, which is a pillar of Islam, be revealed to someone who was not a prophet? Because, as I gave the reason, number one is because it was verified by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and number two is that this dream was seen by Hazrat Umar bin Khattab anhu, and verses in the past have been revealed according to Hazrat Umar radiallahu anhu's desires and wishes, which obviously doesn't contradict what regarding this being a pillar or regarding this being an integral part of our deen or Islam. So that's that section done. Next section which we're going to look at with regards to azan is the virtues of giving azan, the fazails of giving azan. And just a couple of hadiths I'm going to mention. The first hadith, which can be found in Tabrani, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that a muazzin, a person who calls for the prayer, will enter Jannah and paradise without reckoning and without hisab. So a person who does the azan, then he will enter Jannah and paradise without any hisab. And the second hadith is that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that a muazzin, he will be raised from his grave proclaiming and saying the azan. So when he will be resurrected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be resurrected from the grave and he will be saying the azan, Allahu Akbar, all the way to the end. And the third hadith, which can be found in Sunan Abu Dawood and Sunan Tirmidhi, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has said that he will seek forgiveness for the muazzin. Like the muazzin, just an example, if he did do some kind of sin or ghazalik, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will be interceding for that person's behalf. So these are, and there are many other hadiths which all describe the virtues of doing azan. So unfortunately, azan is something which we are always, backing away from. What I mean by that is that in a masjid, if there's no muazzin there, and somebody says, okay, who's going to do the azan? Then we say, oh no, ask him, or ask that person, and so on. So we always like our second when it comes to giving azan. Whereas, I mentioned this probably before as well, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran says, فَاسْتَبِقُوا الْخَيْرَاتِ, that we should always hasten to do good deeds. Remember this principle, and this just generally, I'm just giving you some advice, is that whenever there is an opportunity to do a good deed, always do it. Whatever there's opportunity to do good deed, it's like, say something like, you've seen some kind of dirt in the masjid, pick that dirt up. You'll get good deed and you'll get good reward for that. Whenever there's an opportunity to do good deed, never ever say, I'll do it later or I'll do it tomorrow. Never give that possibility up, because how do you know that that could have been the last chance to do a good deed in this world before you pass away? That's why Allah has said in the Quran, and also Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in many hadiths that encourage us that whenever there is an opportunity to do a good deed, always do a good deed. And that's why, like my personal advice here, that whenever brothers invite me, do a talk here or do a service here, I try my best to actually attend all the talks. Because I think to myself that, look, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he went to Taif, he wasn't invited by the people of Taif. He went there to give them da'wah. And the way they treated him was, so he started pelting stones, bricks at Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was bleeding. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was hurt. But he did that for the sake of his ummah. But when some brothers invite me for a talk, the way I look at it is that, look, I'm not doing any advertising here. They are going to get all the brothers, they're going to do all the postering, they're going to do everything, they're going to do all the recording and so on. What I have to do is just come and just say a few words, what I know about the religion, what I know about the deen, and firstly I'll be getting the reward and sawab of doing da'wah, and also I'll be acting upon the Quranic verse of hastening to do good deeds. So whenever there's an opportunity to do a good deed, whatever according to your capacity, according to your capability, then don't let that opportunity go, but instead always try to do that particular good deed. So as I was saying here, that with regards to azan, whatever the opportunity, don't say, oh, let this person do it, let that person do it. Instead, we should be fighting over amongst each other who will want to do the azan, who will want to become the imam and so on. So these are issues which obviously we try to stay away from. Whereas as you can see from the hadiths, those who are regular in azan, then Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam will seek forgiveness for them. They will be raised from their grave saying the azan. That's the virtues of azan. Now the next section which you're going to start is just basically some masail and some rulings with regards to azan. Now the first ruling is that the muazzin, he must be a male and he must be sane and he must be mature. Please. And he must be male. So from this we can understand that a female, she can't give azan. Also the muazzin, he must be aqil, he must be sane. So if a muazzin is majnoon or there's something wrong with him, pagal, he's mental or something like that, then he can't give the azan. And similarly, if the muazzin is immature, if he's a child, 3-4-year-old child, 5-year-old child and so on, then his azan is also not going to be correct as well. So that's one ruling. The second ruling is that it is mustahab and desirable, or you could say it's a sunnah as well, that the azan should be done from a standing position. So if someone, say for example, got bad knees or he's in a wheelchair and he can't stand for his salah, so therefore he can't also give the azan as well. Someone who should be giving azan, he should be someone who is able to stand, and azan should be done from a standing position. The third ruling is that whoever gives the azan, it's his right and haq to also do the iqamat as well. Unless he delegates that duty to someone, then that's okay. But generally speaking, whoever gives the azan, it's his right and haq to give the iqamat. So what I mean by that, if somebody gives the azan, then no one else without his consent or permission can give the iqamah. So you have to get permission from him, and if he doesn't give you permission, then tough luck, he will have to do the iqamah, and you can't then complain about it afterwards. So that's the third ruling. The fourth ruling is that when a person is giving iqamah, it's not necessary that he has to stand right behind the imam. As in the practice in some masajid that they kind of make sure like you have to be like pinpoint like proper accurately behind the imam before they give the iqamat and so on. Okay, that's not necessary if say in this masjid here, if the muazzin is standing here, or just say if he's standing in the second row, even if he's standing right at the back row, as long as he gives the iqamat loudly and it can be heard by everyone, then that is also sufficient as well. The fourth ruling is, where should the azan take place? Or where should you give the azan from? Now it is mustahab and desirable that you should give azan outside the masjid. Masjid meaning not outside the actual building, the actual prayer. So if it's possible, you should try and give the azan outside the prayer. And that is the process in this particular masjid. However, if someone is giving the azan inside the masjid, then there's nothing wrong with it. Okay, it's preferable that you should do it outside the masjid. But if somebody were to do it inside, then there's nothing wrong with it. And sometimes people do the azan inside. Why? Because the mic system is in the masjid, and they do the azan so that it goes into the mic, and then obviously all the scanners which are around Birmingham, everybody can hear you and so on. So if they're doing it for that particular reason, then that's also alright as well. The next ruling is, just say if somebody misses out phrases or words from the azan, then what should they do? And a good example will be obviously Fajr time, where sometimes the muazzin, he may forget as-salatu khayrun minan nawm. So what will happen in that situation? Now the ruling is that, let's say for example the muazzin is giving azan, hayya ala-salah, hayya ala-salah, hayya ala-falah, hayya ala-falah, then instead of saying as-salatu khayrun minan nawm, he said Allahu Akbar as normal. Now if he remembers straight away, like he's read Allahu Akbar, and then he remembers, oh, I should have said as-salatu khayrun minan nawm. Or he finishes his azan off, he finishes his azan, he says Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, and then he remembers, oh, I haven't said as-salatu khayrun minan nawm. So the ruling is that as long as there has been not that much of a gap after concluding the azan, then what you should do is that you should go back to the phrase which he has skipped or missed, say that, and then finish the azan from there. So if he finishes azan and then he remembers, oh, I haven't said as-salatu khayrun minan nawm, so he should go back to as-salatu khayrun minan nawm, as-salatu khayrun minan nawm, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, and complete the azan. Or just say, for example, if it's normal azan, and just say he said hayya ala salah, and he forgot hayya ala falah, and then he goes into Allahu Akbar, and then he remembers, then he should go back to hayya ala falah, Allahu Akbar, la ilaha illallah, and conclude the azan in that particular way. The next ruling is, if somebody hears the azan or heard the azan whilst in a masjid, then can he leave the masjid without praying the salah which the azan was called? So just say, for example, he's in a masjid and he heard the azan for Isha, say at 7:30 he heard the azan for Isha. So just say Jamaat is at 8 o'clock. So does he or can he leave the masjid without praying the Isha salah, or does he have to be there for the Isha salah and then leave afterwards? Now the scholars have written that if there is an excuse or if there is a need, then a person can leave the masjid even though he has heard the azan. Now what are the excuses? There are three altogether. Actually, there are four altogether. Number one is that if he happens to be an imam of another masjid. So just say, for example, like the azan here took place at say 7:30. So he's heard the azan here, but he's actually an imam, say at Masjid Hamza 8 o'clock. So therefore, in that situation, he can leave the masjid here without praying the Isha, and he'll go to Masjid Hamza and pray the Isha there. Number two, the second excuse or the second situation is, if he's already read the salah, or if he's already prayed the salah. Now what could have happened is that a person is already prayed salah somewhere else in another masjid, and he's visiting another masjid, and the azan for that particular salah, say Zuhur, is say half an hour later. So because he's already ready, so therefore he can leave the masjid without praying that salah. The third situation is that if an emergency has happened. He heard the azan, but then he gets a call that something's happened at home, so he has to rush home. So in that situation, he can leave the masjid without praying the salah. And the fourth situation is that if a person has hope or umeed that he will be able to catch salah at another masjid. So in that situation, he can leave the masjid even though he heard the azan. So for example, in this masjid here, and you heard the azan for Isha, but you think that, look, at Masjid Hamza, they're already at 8 o'clock or half 8, I could easily get it for, for the Isha Salah for there. In that situation, will be allowed to leave the masjid, even though he heard the azan. Inshallah, we'll just leave it there for this week. Obviously, there are some other masajid, but inshallah, we'll leave it for next week. May Allah send us the tawfiq to our Now, before we finish, this is just a couple of questions which some sisters have asked after listening to the dars on the website. A couple of questions the sisters have asked is with regard to period blood, which the topic which we have looked at a couple of months ago. Now the two questions they asked was, number one, in the dars or in the lesson I mentioned that if a woman, if she is bleeding continuously, then I said that the first 10 days will be considered as period blood, and the remaining 20 days of the month will be considered as tuhur. So the question was that, is this particular ruling applicable for someone, this was a question, who has started or who is known as a mubtadi'a, i.e. someone or a woman who is experiencing haid or period for the very first time. So the answer to that is yes, this particular ruling is for that particular woman, because if a woman knows her habit, like when her bleeding is, like if it's the first 5 days of the month or the first 6 days of the month, she will act accordingly. But if someone who's bleeding for the very first time or experiencing period blood for the very first time, for them that is the ruling, and that is like first 10 days will be considered as haid, and the remaining days will be considered as tuhur and cleanliness. And another question they asked was that, again, this principle I mentioned before, is that between two menstruation periods and cycles, there has to be a 15-day gap of tuhur and cleanliness. So what I mean by that is, just say for example, if a woman, she finished her bleeding, say on the 10th of March, so the next time she can possibly and feasibly have haze and period blood will be from the 25th of March. Now, it doesn't mean that she's going to have period blood at 25th. I'm saying that the next possible time is from the 25th of March. So just on the 25th of March, 26th of March, or whenever she sees blood, then that bleeding, if it continues for 3 days or up to 10 days, or according to her habit, then that will be considered as her haze as well. Why? Because from that menstruation cycle to the previous one, there was a gap of 15 days or more of tuhur and cleanliness. And the third question they asked, so I'm not going to answer it here, is because the third question they asked was, if a woman is traveling and if she stops bleeding or if she starts the bleeding, then what will be the masla with regards to qasr, with regards to shortening of prayers? So the answer to that, inshallah, will be given when we look at this section regarding salat al-musafir, i.e. The masla regarding prayers of those who are travelers and so on. So inshallah, I will discuss that masla in detail in that particular section. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا وعملا متقبلا ورزقا طيبا وشفاء من كل داء صلى الله تعالى على سيدنا